is a very good God. I said, God is good. Whether the devil likes it or not, God is a good God. May the Spirit of the Lord prosper this morning and encourage somebody here. I pray that your spirits will be lifted, your vision sharpened, your hope restored, your joy made to be fulfilled. The battles won for you, enemies defeated. God's grace and fresh mighty upon your life, and His will will do in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. I will give your neighbor a good high five. High five, a good one, a good one. Hallelujah. I want us to sing a song this morning before we get to the gospel. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Can we try it? When upon life's billows you are tempestuous, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, when one by one, and it is Please take this. I want to tell you a little secret this morning. Sometimes it's not possible to count your blessings. Because when you look around you, you see no blessings to count. That is what your mind thinks. Sometimes that is the obvious truth of your present reality. To deny it is a recipe for mental illness. Count your blessings. When you can't count them, I give you a secret. Name your blessings. The author of the song said, see what God has done. That is the key to understanding life. Sometimes there is nothing to see. You must create that sight as a secret to your survival and to your victory. If you are always wanting to see something, there will be times when you see nothing. And those moments in life when we cannot see anything are those moments that we are faced with depression. This morning I'm going to talk about depression, but I want to talk to your neighbor this morning one more time and say, count your blessings in the world. I actually want to go to somebody and do that. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. And it will surprise you what the Lord has done. God bless you. There was a great man in the Bible that did great things, very mighty things. But his life illustrates to us how depression can come upon any human being. Some of you will say he's an Old Testament character. But I challenge you with some that grace to produce the type of result that he produced. Elijah was an unusual prophet, an unusual character in Scripture. A man who could handle it alone, a man who could go alone, a man who could fight alone, a man who could travel alone, and a man who could conquer alone. He was not afraid to stand for his conviction. Even when he seen that every other person was on the opposite side of the context. In 1 Kings chapter 17, we see him coming to the king to announce an impending drought that will eventually lead to famine. With great boldness he declared to the king, no rain or dew is going to fall, but according to my word. And the testimony of Scripture is that what he said came to pass. In chapter 18, God sends him back to the land and says, look, go, I want to send rain. And Elijah prayed, and fire fell from heaven. I don't know how many of us have prayed, fire fell from him. Even though we shout fire all the time. He didn't even finish his prayer. He was still arranging the prayer when heaven burst forth upon the earth. With incredible fire that lit up water, lit us to consume everything on the altar along with the altar itself. That was an unusual demonstration of the power of God. Literally, before everyone, the people saw it. That manifestation immediately put Elijah in command. He said, get all the prophets of Baal and kill them. But in chapter 19, something happened that changed the story. This will give us a little bit of insight how people get into depression. So we start our story from 1 Kings chapter 19. I want to start quickly from verse 1. And they had told Jezebel all that Elijah had done. And we know that he had slain all the prophets in the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them like tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belonged to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he required for himself that he might die, and said, it is enough now, O Lord. Take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. Was that true? Was he really not better than his fathers? Hello? Is it true that he was really not better than his fathers? That statement wasn't true. But that's what depression was to us. It gives us a wrong picture of what the situation actually is. What is depression? It's a state of mind. It's a mental state and also an emotional state characterized by sadness and very low moods. When human beings is depressed, they are sad. For as long as the depression is there, they are sad, their mood is low. Even if they try to smile or laugh, if you are observant, you will see that it's a forced laughter. They are forcing themselves to laugh. They are forcing themselves to smile. Why? Because there is great sadness in their mind. Hello? Of course, because you know that word depression means a pressing down. That's why if you are looking at a landscape and say there's a depression somewhere along the line, you mean that on this land there is a place that is lower than others. That's a depression, it's a pressing down. Depression is a pressure that certain things about life put upon a man, or a woman, or a group of people. There can be mass depression, just like in our nation today. In case you do not know, a lot of Nigerians are depressed. But because we are not good at going for medical consultations, people do not know they have depression or chronic depression. There are different types of depression and different degrees. We are not going to go into that this morning because I want to keep it. We want to quickly ask ourselves, what can cause us to be depressed? What is the thing that can make a man or woman to be depressed? First, scientists who have studied depression are saying that they do not know exactly how people get depressed or what causes. They don't know all the causes. But here I'm going to give you some of the things they've been able to identify as things that can cause depression. Number one is when there is a change in somebody's life. The change may be good or the change may be bad. And listen to me. Something good can give you depression. And listen to me. I know a woman who lived in the same compound at one time when she took a job in a Christian organization. The salary was high, the job was good, everything about the job was good. But the first day she got to office, they told her, welcome ma'am, this week we shall give you a baptism of work. Somebody say baptism of work. Well, they were worker habits. Within 1 week, she was stressed up by the job. Here is someone who has stayed at home for years and has been praying for a job. She got a job with a very good package. But the stress of performing her duties began to throw her into depressive mood. A woman who has been praying for marriage for so many years can become married, and the pressures of marriage, the pressures of raising kids can throw that woman into depression. The marriage is good, but this person is not able to come positively. I want you to note that one of the things that occasion depression is when people do not have life skills. What did I say? Life skills that help them to cope with the challenges of life. Then those challenges press them down so much that they begin to collapse. So one thing that can cause depression is a change in your life. The change will be positive, the change will be negative. We look at positive change. A negative change may mean that somebody was married, the marriage was going fine for years, and suddenly something goes wrong, and the marriage begins to collapse, even though there is no divorce. Sometimes, the problem that is inside is keeping people more. Do you understand? The people are all the same group, they are living together, but the pressure of the marital issue they are going through is killing either one of them or both of them. And that change can lead to depression. Something closely related to this change is when somebody loses a job, somebody loses a loved one. I've told you some time ago, as a teenager, I saw my uncle's wife run mad. Thank God she eventually recovered from that terrible madness. But she ran mad because her husband died. And what shocked me about her condition was that the marriage wasn't really sweet before the man died. So one expected that she should have been very happy. She should have said good riddance to bad rubbish. You get it? But she ran mad. I can still picture her trying to clean up the wall. And she was telling everyone that her husband had gone to the market to buy ceiling sheets so that her own living room can be sealed. Because the house was big, so she had her own part of the house. But her living room had not been sealed before the man. Actually, I think the man really didn't want to seal it, but he could have known that he had the money. And as soon as the husband died, what she was telling everybody, my husband went to him about 3 days ago, he wants to go and buy ceiling sheet. Where is he? Why is he not back? That broke my heart. Hello? Unfortunately, somebody so unfortunate. These older women in the village didn't understand the trauma that this widow was going through. They would tell her to come out very early every morning between 4 a.m. 5 a.m. to go to one lonely, isolated place, stand under one tree in the dark, and scream and shout her husband's name and say, she's mourning. And one day they said she wasn't doing well. Are you not killing? You are not mourning, you are not screaming. Here was a woman whose mind had been destabilized by the death of her husband. It got to a point that her family reacted and asked our family, do you want to kill her also? So loss of job, loss of a loved one can lead to depression. Chemical imbalance in somebody's brain. When the chemicals in our body, there are certain chemicals that the balance is not okay, can lead to depression. Hello? Some tumor putting pressure on somebody's brain can lead to depression. This is why when we begin to have signs that something is wrong with us, we should find out what it is. It doesn't mean you don't have faith. Don't listen to preachers who kill you because they go to hospital. Hello? They do. They do. They'll tell you they do not take medication, they don't consult doctors, they consult the best doctors. Beginning from the time of the healing evangelists in America, very few of them didn't consult doctors. One in particular was broadcasting a radio program from the hospital bed because he didn't want the people to know he was sick. So that the doctor asked why this great man knew. If something is wrong with you, doesn't mean the doctors get it right all the time. But those times they do get it can save your life. Somebody start looking. Hello. Sometimes, gender, women have been known to be more prone to depression than men because they are differently wired. As a matter of fact, some women go through a mood swing when they are going through their cycles. That's a known fact. But that type of depression is not so much of a problem unless it begins to become prolonged and goes beyond that cycle. Then we know that something is wrong. Hello? How do we know? How do I know that I'm depressed? How do I know that I have a problem? Let's begin from scripture before I give you 1 or 2 points from my notes because that is why I really don't want to push it on today. You look at the story of Elijah. This was a woman who took a man who confronted an entire nation single-handedly. Nobody was with him. In fact, for 3.5 years, he held the nation to ransom. Hello? For that period, God protected him and God kept him. When he bounced back on the stage of Israel, he came with power, came with supernatural power, mighty demonstration. By his word, hundreds of prophets were slain. But when one person sent a message to him, he immediately swung into depression. Now I want to look at the possible reason why Elijah immediately became depressed, so that we will be able to understand depression a little bit. Some people, because of the genes they inherited from their parents, will be predisposed. Hello? That is their lineage. What they are carrying inside them has made them candidates for depression. So they are predisposed. It does not mean that they may suffer depression. That is, unless they confront the trigger. They are predisposed to it. But if they do not have any life-threatening situation, any crisis, or anything that upsets their constitution, they may not show that sign. It's just like there are so many people who have certain types of mental illnesses, but they don't show any sign until something triggers it. Hello? For example, there are certain women that immediately they give birth to a baby. Something that is lying dormant, mental illness is activated. And as Africans, which usually we say, they don't attack them. Everything is not on that. Hello? You hearing me? Everything is not on that. That thing I'm speaking, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm speaking from experience of years of counseling people and handling people and observing what has happened to people. I have seen people just deliver and they begin to display signs of mental illness that if you are not observing, you will not know what is going on. They begin to act abnormal. Hello? The rigors, the trauma of labor and childbirth has triggered what was already there. So I believe, along with certain Bible scholars, that Elijah was actually someone who had a predisposition to be melancholic. It was in him. Somebody says, I will kill you at this time tomorrow. You just kill all her prophets. With one prophecy, you can slay her, and you begin to run. It was not Jezebel's threat that caused Elijah's problem. It was what was in Elijah that had been triggered by the threat. Just like the story that trended. It is not someone saying, look, you should be ashamed of yourself. You don't have this, have a husband, you have this, of all you've achieved, that can hurt any human being, right? But how many people do you know who are going to commit suicide because of that? I have been told worse things. Do you hear me? I have been told worse things than she was told, and it did not occur to me that I should commit suicide. So there was something in Elijah, just as there was something in that woman that was triggered by the pain that was coming from outside. And so when this thing was triggered, what is the first thing that we observe about Elijah that makes us know he was depressed? The first thing is that his reality became distorted. His reality became what? Depression will distort your reality. So you think everybody has abandoned you. You think there is no hope. You think life has ended. You think you are worthless. Listen to me. Every human being at one time or the other will be tempted to feel worthless. Especially when you evaluate yourself materially. Because your real worth is not in your material possession. But when you evaluate yourself materially and you find that you don't measure up, you will have this temptation to feel worthless. But generally, human beings pull out of that. But if you find this feeling of worthlessness is lingering, that is a symptom of depression. Elijah said, I am no better than my fathers. I'm worthless, that's the meaning. I'm just as useless as my forefathers. I've wasted my effort, wasted my life. Second symptom we see here is that he entered a period of darkness. Depression creates darkness. If you have ever hung around anybody who is having chronic depression, you will find some of them avoid lights. They do what? They like to shut all the windows. They like to sleep in the afternoon and cover their head. They like to withdraw from society. I'm giving you the symptoms. They like to do what? Withdraw from society. They like to be alone. I don't want to mix with anybody. I want to be on my own. That is depression speaking. And the more that person is withdrawing, that person is like the snake withdrawing into his shell. What is in the shell of the snake? Darkness. You see how Elijah got somewhere and abandoned his servant. This is what people do when they are depressed. They begin to isolate themselves. I pray that one day God will give me an opportunity to talk about Satan's battle of isolation. When the devil wants to destroy a man, a woman, a family, one of the most effective strategies he uses is to isolate them from the people who can help them, from the people who can support them and strengthen them. He begins to make them to isolate themselves. The devil will whisper to the people who don't talk to Agnes, don't talk to Thomas, don't talk to Paul. Just stay with Paul will not understand, Agnes will not understand, nobody loves you. Elijah said, I'm no better. The only person that was on his team, he dropped him and went into the wilderness. Depression takes people into a wilderness. This wilderness is not on the outside, it's inside. It's a mental wilderness, a place of dryness where no creative idea penetrates. They don't see anything creative about life. They have no joy. They have no hope. That feeling of hopelessness is what makes depressed people to consider suicide. Hello? They feel hopeless, they feel helpless, and they feel hurt, they feel mental pain. Especially the people whose depression have been caused by any type of abuse. Because sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse that prolongs over a period of time can throw a man and woman into depression. If your husband is always telling you you are useless, I don't know what you are doing. This has maybe say it with a smile. They say it in the morning and in the afternoon says he does not mean it. But every time he says
the psyche of that woman and throwing her into depression. After a while, that woman will begin to believe. I'm telling you, no matter how intelligent or educated she is, unless she has taken steps to positively protect herself against that onslaught, after a while, she will actually begin to believe that she's worthless, she's useless, she's a burden to this man, that the man is right. And that will throw her into depression. Hello. Depressed people have sleep distortions. They can't sleep well. Hello. You'll find some of them liking to hide in sleep. They like to run away. They use sleep as an escape. So they sleep for long hours. That's a distortion. And you find some of them can't sleep at all, even when they take sleeping pills. Why? Because the depression has begun to affect their nervous system. So their nerves are so wrapped up that the nerves will not rest, so they cannot sleep. Hello. But we don't want to concentrate too much on the problems because the least quite enormous. What do we as believers do? What are steps we can take to overcome depression? Maybe another time we will look at depression as part 2, but for today, what do we do to overcome depression? Number one, I want you to realize that depression is a fact of life. It can happen to a man of God, it can happen to a woman of God. As a matter of fact, a lot of servants of God are depressed. Somebody say, I hear. It can come to anybody because the pressure of the world, the pressure of life, the challenges press you down. So recognize that it is a fact of life. It doesn't mean that you are an inferior human being. Just as anybody can have malaria, anybody can have any illness, that's how anyone can have depression. So it does not in any way demean you. It does not in any way say that you are a weak human being. It doesn't in any way mean that you are a failure. Hello? It just means that something has gone wrong with your life. Number two, when you begin to find yourself with certain symptoms, find out why. Try to ascertain what is going on in your life. Don't just keep quiet. Don't keep it to yourself. Especially when you have prayed for some time and the problem is not going away. I shared my own depression story with you. Hello? As a matter of fact, initially I was taking it as a sign of the Spirit of God warning me of the problem coming. Because before that depression began, anytime something bad wants to happen, one of the signs I get is that mood. I'll have this hopeful mood all over me that makes me have this, they call it a foreboding feeling. Just feel like something bad is about to happen, so I will begin to pray. But this one was something that was off and on over a period of years, I think about 3-4 years. Hello? I didn't even know what was going on. The day that thing was exposed, I was coming to this place. That was 2010. Hello, I was coming to the office in the morning, and I was in the bus at the Mabaja, and you know how they do, they move forward and they move backward. And this thing just descended on me like a cloud. It was heavy. So heavy that I became afraid. There was this fear in me that someone in my home is going to die. And my mind went to my first son. So I called my wife. I said, "Where is Zeno?" She said, "He's in school." "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in my shop." I said, "Lock your shop up now. Lock it up. Go to school and check him up. I want to know if he's all right." She said, "I hope no problem." I said, "That's exactly what I want to verify." She wanted to protest and she suspected what was coming. I said, "Shut that shop. Go to his school and verify that he is okay. And give me a call. I want to know what's going on." Before I would get to church, she had called back and said, "I went to school, he's okay, he's writing a man's problem that was given to him. I said, are you sure it's okay? So I began to wonder, what is going on? If this is not a sign of something bad, then something else is going on in my life, and I don't know what it is. So I came to the office and I prayed. I forgot about the prayer. Not long after that, one night I was sleeping and I dreamt. And I found myself put my hand on my head and pulled out 3 tongues. They were arranged in a triangle. I put one, put the other one, put the third one. And I put them on my palm and looked at it and asked, how did this get there? So I woke up. When I woke up, I immediately understood this is depression. Now listen, let me tell you something. Depression can be from a natural cause, and depression can be from a demonic cause. That thing that I was pulling out represented the 3 stages of depression that were attacking my life. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to somebody? There was no natural cause for what I was going through. Those were spirits. So I pulled them off, and that was the end. For a very long time. After years have passed, one day that thing came. The devil, once he has done something in your life, he will try to do it again. I want you never to forget that. That is one of the laws of spiritual warfare that people neglect. If the devil has ever done anything in your life at any time, you can bet your life on it, he will do it again. He will attempt it again. Twice after that, the enemy had tried to come back. Hello? The first time, I said, no, you can't come back. The second time, the battle was a little bit tough. I was praying and the thing was hanging around. Thank God I have learned the law of faith. That what you feel and what you see has nothing to do with what you say and what you want to see. They are 2 different things in 2 different dimensions or 2 different realms. Hello? So for about 3 days I will go out and that thing is following me. And one day I was in the battle, I told the devil, you can bring any feeling that you like. God took this thing away. I am not taking it back because I don't like how it felt the other time. I don't want to have it again. And then it will lift you. Hello, sir. So we complain that it doesn't mean you are defeated, you are weak. Number 2, try to find out what is going on in your life. Number 3, you need to make a lifestyle change. If you begin to find that you are depressed, you need to do what? Make a lifestyle change. You need to reorder your life. And I'm quickly going to tell you some things that you should do. Number 1, in reordering your life, stop listening to music that is noisy, that stirs up your feelings. Music that is very high-paced and very noisy, this rowdy nonsense they play. Nobody plays noisy music for psychiatric patients. Hello? As a matter of fact, experienced doctors will play for a psychiatric patient classical music. If the music does not suit your soul when you are depressed, it will cause you further complications. Don't play music that are depressive. Some people like music when somebody is sad. He's pouring his failure to you through his music. You took your money and bought his failure and bought his frustration, and you are importing it into your life. Something wrong with you. I know a sister that used to sing those days, one silly song by one white lady that sang that she will never be married, she will never be anybody's wife. The day I heard that, I didn't know where the sister got it from until I heard the song on radio. That song was depressive. This sister was done by one man after another, until it became an embarrassment. She had engagements that will last for 1 month or 2 months. After a while, I remember this lady used to come to our house and say that she will never be married. she will never be somebody's wife. Prophecy is coming to pass. Stop playing songs that talk about death, talk about loss, talk about destruction. Why are you playing those melancholic songs? Did they make them for you? Songs that all the instruments are played in minor key from beginning to the end. Every track, minor key. You are putting your life on a minor level. At least they should put some major keys there. Oh, they are minor. Any song that is totally in minor key is a solo song. Hello? Number 2, get creative. That's why I told you, when you don't see any blessing to come, begin to name your blessing. Hello? Get creative. Let your life become creative. Get something doing. Even if nobody will appreciate that thing, draw. Who said you need to draw, know how to draw in order for you to draw to come into progression? Who said so? You know what they call stick man? 1 0 up, 1 line down, another line. Draw them. Use the drawing to illustrate something. Draw Jesus and draw the crowd. And draw Jesus multiplying fish for the crowd. When you begin to get creative, you begin to defeat depression. Get yourself into an activity that is positive. Rearrange your house. Give it a new look. Hello? Even if the way it is now you like it, rearrange it again. You are being creative. Hello? Stop watching all those useless movies. Kiki, they keep down. Then, all these Indians carry their problem and package it very well and export it to you. If you are not depressed, you can cope with all the stress. Do you know what they do? Cliffhangers. They leave you at a point where your heart is pumping hard and you want to know what they want to do tomorrow. And this story is a very, why did you do that? This thing is make-believe and you are believing it. If you check your blood pressure, something has happened to you. That's why people are depressed. Hello? The next one you need to be a lifestyle change. Get good friends. Not some Christians are bad friends. Hello? Anybody will tell your problem. I say, make it our problem. So what? That person can kill you. Listen, do you hear me? People have committed suicide because of what people say. Even if you have blown it, you don't need somebody to tell you, you need that you do it. Abi, if you mess up, you know that you mess up. Why should I tell you mess up? You already know you mess up. It's not my duty to tell you, you already know it. It is my duty to tell you how to come out of that mess. And I will begin by telling you that it is possible to come out. Hello. The next lifetime change you will see in your thought. Beloved, nobody is going to help. There is treatment for depression, both psychological treatment and medical treatment, but none of it will work if your mindset still remains negative. You must make up your mind to fight this thing. To do what? Fight it to a stop and kill it. Nobody will do that for you. Nobody. If there is a spirit of depression hovering over your life, when they pray for you and cast it out, it goes. But it will come back to knock on your door. I'm telling you by the Spirit, it will knock on your door. It is you who will tell the devil there is no vacancy. This door is shut. Against you, it will never be opened again. Change the way you think. Also change the way you talk. Because what is coming out from your mouth programs your mind. Every time. If you are depressed, stop calling them to say Nigeria and Awar. Stop listening to news most of the time. I'm giving you a secret. Every bad thing you are circulating on WhatsApp, you must download the videos. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Some of you don't know the meaning of viewer's discretion is advice. You don't know it. You will watch all the horrible, gory things. Dismember God human parts. You are just watching, and then you are wondering why you are low. You are the one bringing information I need to know. Type it out. Type it out. As a pastor, when you want to inform me, they attack somebody somewhere, they are doing this, you need to pray with me. Type it out. Don't show me nonsense. I don't want to see it. I don't want to. One of the secrets of my surviving till date is that I've been able to read books when I was a teenager that taught me the importance of guarding my mind. That is why I know how to travel alone. I don't need anybody to tell me to be strong. When I find myself that I am going down, I tell myself, get up! Don't wait for anybody to talk to me. I talk to myself and tell myself, get up, what is this you are doing? Go, keep going. Hello? You know where I formulated that strategy? I told you once. I didn't know that suicidal tendency was running in my paternal grandmother's line. I didn't know. But as a teenager, I have attempted to take my life nothing less than 3 times. I'm telling you the truth. Over nothing, just one small problem. You say you want to die. School fees didn't arrive on time. It is going to come. They are supposed to send you this, they didn't send you. You say you want to die. I remember the day that the Lord broke that rule. Suicide is a spirit. Speaking from experience, I took poison and climbed the rock and I want to take my life. This time there was actually a crisis. I have gathered and everything that I gathered disappeared. And that triggered that tendency. So I took the poison and climbed the rock. And told God to them and we ended. They won't even find my body. I don't want them to bury anything. It will rot here. Hello. When I come to that place, I began to pray. Somebody said, thank God for praying. I began to pray and speak in tongues. And after a while, I looked at the poison and asked myself, John, why do you want to do this? I didn't find any answer. And I had the poison in my hand and said, Father, today kill this. From that day till today, I have had worse problems. It has never occurred to me and it will never occur to me that death is an option. No! I don't take foolish risks. I take precaution to preserve my life. The tendency to die is about that. That's how I knew that it is a spirit. But I also know that I have a responsibility. God has broken the law. I must guard the door. I don't watch nonsense. I'm telling you the truth. I don't watch nonsense. I don't read nonsense. I'm careful and mindful in books I read. Even if they say it's written by Lisa Roto. I have bought books, thousands of naira, and when I just get through, I tear them. I bought it with my money. I didn't borrow the money. I destroy them and throw it away. I don't want somebody putting it into, if it gets into your system, it will be difficult. So you need a nice strategy. And then the round up to this because I told you about what's going on. If you are a very depressed person, pray your way out of it. Stop running about from pastor to pastor. I've been telling you this. Because if you don't learn to pray your way out, one day you will need somebody to advise you, and there will be nobody around you. But if you have learned how to pray your way out, you will stand on your feet. The battle may be tough, the storm may be raging. It may look like your life has come to an end. You will pray your way out of that darkness. I stand as a testimony here to tell you that you can pray your way out of any darkness. If you can pray, God will bring you over it. I came to give you hope today. Psalm 23 verse 4 says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That is the promise you give to yourself that will pull you out of every valley of depression. Can you rise your foot this morning? Can you rise your foot this morning? I don't know if you have been blessed in any way. I don't know. But I want to encourage you. Life is tough. That's the truth. Whatever is your burden this morning, bring it to God one more time. Bring it to God one more time. It is problems that threaten us and make us to be depressed. Begin to bring that thing to God and tell Him, here is my burden. I want to take this burden today. I want to lift it up my shoulder. I want to give me a breakthrough over this thing. Can you begin to talk to